Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Disc Golf Preview Show for DGLO, the Discraft Great Lakes Open presented by Grip 6. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Trevor. We're officially in the postseason of disc golf.
It's playoffs.
What that means, we'll get into it a little bit later, but we're heading back out Milford, Michigan, the Toboggan course. What a fun course. They added some teeth to it this year. One of the biggest changes they did, and we've actually talked about this several times, but a few holes, I believe 3 or 4 holes to be exact, have 2 pins this year, and they'll be playing 1 pin on rounds 1 and 4 and the other pin in round 2 and 3, kind of give it that like moving day, actually make it mean something in disc golf. What are your thoughts on this, and is it something we should see at other courses, or is it just like a DGLO exclusive thing?
No, yeah, I think that DGLO is a great course to start this with because you have a very customizable course. For instance, a lot of the fairways leading to the green are really straightforward to where you can just move the basket 100 feet, 50 feet shorter on most of these holes, and it works just fine. Sometimes we see FPO pins just played out exactly like that. So I think this is a really good tester course. My thing is it immediately adds a really cool element to the course that we don't get to see many places, if anywhere at all. And I really like it's not super expensive, right? We don't need a second basket. We're just putting in another sleeve.
Yeah.
So, I think that any courses that will allow the Pro Tour to do this, I think they should use it as much as possible. I wish they were doing it on more holes, because I don't think the pros will mind it. Now, the other difficulty is, ideally, I'm not sure if they're doing this or not, but ideally they would switch the pins on practice days.
Well, ideally you'd have both pins in practice days.
Or that. That obviously requires more baskets, but at the very least having like 1 day of each or whatever of practice. But yeah, I think logistically it's not super hard to accomplish. Obviously, a lot of courses are like public parks. That might be a different conversation. And some courses it wouldn't work for every hole at every course. This course, it works very easily. I would like to see them do it more because I think it's really exciting. When I heard this was happening, I was really excited. And then I was like, oh, it's only 3 holes. Well, at least we're trying it. So, yeah, I think it'll be something to look at. It'll be fun to see how those holes fluctuate in scoring, and see just how player strategy and attack plan changes during the pin swap. So,
yeah, it seems like it probably makes the holes like on average like a half stroke easier each or something like that. It's not anything drastic, but over the course of 4 rounds, that's 2 strokes.
Well, it's like
difference.
hole 1. They're doing it on hole 1, right?
Yeah, so hole 1, the easier the 2 pins is left of where it was last year, and the other pin looks like basically where it was last year.
Because like that hole normally is not super hard to par, but a tough get. You need to throw a really good backhand turnover or a huge forehand. And so moving that pin up just makes it like, okay, on rounds 2 and 3, now this hole is like a hole you maybe expect to get. This is a scoreable hole. Whereas in rounds 1 and 4 and in its normal pin position, it's almost a little bit of a bonus. Like you're just kind of trying to get yourself a 30, 40 footer a lot of times on the hole because you got to really push right.
Yeah. So it's going to be an exciting element. It'll be interesting how they include it in coverage. We've seen USDGC do this before. I'm trying to think if we've seen any other tournaments do the 2 different pins and rotate them.
Think of another.
USDGC is the only one I remember. I think it's a really good strategy for obviously playoff events, Elite Plus events. They're 4-day events. Majors are 4-day events. I think when you have 4 days at one course, it's almost a necessity.
Yeah.
Like I would love Champions Cup, WR Jackson. It'd be great if they had 2 different pin locations on some of the holes.
And you don't even have to. I think as long as you're changing either T pin or even like we've talked about the Mando idea of like switching the direction of a Mando, just moving around a hole in a simple way like that. It makes things a lot more interesting when you're playing the same course because like even in golf, they're moving the pins around and it changes the hole dramatically. And you can do that in disc golf too. Like we see with USDGC, hole 5 comes to mind. Not hole 5, 888 hole was that, which is now the 999.
Yeah, I think that's hole 13.
13? Yeah, that's what so 13 comes to mind where when that pin is further into that like landing area, it's pretty easy to attack. But when they moved it out onto that little like peninsula thing, it was almost impossible. So, you can quickly, just by moving a pin closer to trouble or even just further away, you can pretty quickly change the dynamic of a hole entirely. So, yeah, I think it's an easy one because it's just not super expensive. We don't, we at this point, we don't really see a lot of courses under the control of the tour. We still play a lot of public properties. I think as we move into more private things, I'd like to see courses look to implement those sort of things moving forward. Like if I were putting in a course, I would like to think, right now for like everybody, when they think of tees, they think of, okay, short tees, long tees, maybe even a middle tee. I'd like to see, okay, maybe like a long tee, but then a tee that isn't all the way to a short or a middle. Like it's just like a different angle or a different line. Like start to think that way when planning out courses, especially when you're like, if you're building an Eagles Crossing and you want this to be a premier course, like try to change the thought process on that a little bit.
Now, the other big change that is coming this weekend is hole 18 out at DGLO is gotten a lot tougher. So this was an already tough par 3.
Yeah.
That where you want to land to have a birdie look at that par 3 is essentially where you need to land to have a chance at birdie on a now par 4. So they've basically pushed it, I don't know, 250, 300 feet maybe up the hill and to the right. It's really, really tucked in right. So it's most players going to be a huge forehand and then another huge forehand if they want a chance at the birdie. There's OB all around it. It's going to be a much tougher finishing hole, which I think is great because there was a chance of trouble on 18 in years past. There's ways to get in trouble, but it felt like most of the time you got to 18 and most players were able, if they're in the lead at the event, most players were able to birdie it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that scary of a hole, or if you were playing for par, it was really easy.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot scarier of a hole because if you're trying to birdie, you had to push OB twice, or even laying up for par brings OB into play. So I really like this change as well, and I think it'll be I think it'll make the course play a lot tougher.
Well, I watched Brody throw it on his Instagram and throw like 2 smash forehands. And Brody throws his forehand very far. And he got himself like a 45-footer.
Yeah.
Like it definitely seems like it's a tough finish hole.
In my opinion, I think the course could still use some OB. Looking at the course map, it definitely seems like, my recollection could be wrong, it seems like there is a little more, or it might be a little tighter than years past, but it's not anything drastic. Like, I don't think we'll notice it. There's still several holes where you can just kind of open up.
Just chuck it out
and
there,
just chuck it out there, and wherever it lands, you're fine. I think this course could really get next level if we just brought the OB in tighter.
It's such a unique course because of the toboggan track nature of it. You get a lot of these holes, even in the woods, where you have like these perfectly carved out grass fairways with like pretty dense woods on either side, but it is truly a fair course that if you stay out of the trees, like you're not going to run into it. It's like Idlewild where you could throw a decent shot and run into some trees. Like a lot of these holes, there's just nothing in your way if you're staying in that mowed part of the grass tracks, which is it provides a really unique and cool look for it. But yeah, the only real separation, like an example, I believe hole 2 is an uphill par 4 to where. And there's a couple like of the uphill holes like this where, if you end up in those woods, it's going to cost you 1 shot to get back out. Like you will see the pitch outs, but that's the end of the story. It's kind of like that's the end of the trouble. So it will score pretty well. I mean, people don't always shred it. We're probably not going to see Paul's 18 under. I regard it as the best round ever because this course is not that kind of course. But 10, 11, 12, we'll see those.
Well, yeah, because it is the kind of course where, and this is what my qualm with the course, if there is one, because I really like the course.
It's
overall.
fun to watch.
So I don't. If the course stays in its current form, I think it has a longevity on tour. I'm not saying anything like that, but this is my only qualm with one. If I was going to pick one, which is there's too many holes that like you can just grip it and rip it and not really worry.
Yeah,
and it's almost like I'm trying. There's an ideal landing zone, but if I grip this and pull it a little bit right, I can probably still get up and down.
Well, they don't mark all of the long, tall grass usually. Like they do find some spots, but a lot of times you see, like if you watch Paul's 1800 round, you'd see him rip a drive out into an area like that. Kind of looks off the beaten path a little, but then he gets there and you're like, oh, well, it's still a really good angle and it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, there's several times where things will happen that it feels like that player should be OB.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great course. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to be an exciting weekend. There is a decent chance of rain tomorrow, day 1. It looks like after that it's going to be really good weather. So should be plenty of good scoring conditions. Should be a great time. And, like I said, the chance of rain tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be a huge factor. Let's get into some storylines of MPO first off. So last year, refresher, we had Calvin and Corey Ellis going to a playoff. Calvin ended up taking it down. Ricky was right in the mix prior to that playoff as well. This was one of the 2 times last year this an MVP that we saw Corey Ellis basically in the mix, almost winning.
Yeah.
Now that he has the monkey off his back with the win of the European Open, what do you think of his chances coming into this weekend?
I think they're good. I mean, he's clearly, he proved himself on this course last year, but I think a lot of players proved themselves on this course last year. If you look at the leaderboard last year, the top was able to get some separation, but if you kind of weave your way down, there's a lot of big names that played well on this course. They just weren't quite able to string all the rounds together. This year, playoff event, 4-round event. There will be plenty of opportunity for the good players to rise to the top. Corey Ellis last year, this is kind of the stretch where he really, burst onto the scene a little bit. He's been around for a while, but last year he really legitimized himself. Those few events were like, hey, Corey Ellis he was like the next guy up. He's like, he's gonna, he's really gonna do something soon. It obviously took until the European Open this year to make that happen, but I really think this is going to be a tough event to predict, just because there's nothing at this course that really flashes a certain style of game. The distance players who aren't great at hitting lines will do fine at this course, but it's not so demanding. At this point, most of the good touring pros have plenty enough distance to succeed anywhere. So, I think this is a wide open event. Anybody could win this.
Yeah,
event.
well, because I agree. I would almost think of Corey Ellis by nature as more of a wooded player than a wide open bomber player, and obviously he was in the mix here. But it's a course that there's enough of a mix of both that there's just so many players that could do well.
Some of the par 4s and 5s do kind of give you those uphill approaches into greens, and when you get those kind of approaches, I think you are left with longer putts. So I think that's where Corey Ellis can succeed on this course. As I do see this as a course where you could end up with a good bit of those. I feel like if you watch highlights from past years, you see a lot of guys having to make
putts.
Steppers. So I do think that because you get a lot of open putts too, because the greens are pretty open, you'll have these wide open 60-footers. So that points in the direction of Corey Ellis or a guy like Gannon Burr if he gets
Isaac
it going.
Robinson even.
Any of those really elite putters could have a great shot.
And I do think too, this is I don't know. 4 rounds is what I was about to talk about. It being 4 rounds, I think definitely plays because like this course, like we were just saying, is wide open, but 4 rounds plays to really consistent golf, which plays to the best players in the world rising to the top. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the end we see a kind of a chalky leaderboard with the Gannons, the Calvins, the Rickies rising. But I do think there's a really good chance to have some other lesser known names mixed in.
Yeah.
It's just one of those courses that plays well to a lot of players' games, and there's a lot of guys that are freaking good at disc golf out there right now. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a playoff event, but what that means exactly, I don't know. I'm just sharing with you, I don't know. Because there's a lot of players playing this event that logically shouldn't be as far as where they're at in the Pro Tour standings. Manabu Kageyama's playing and hasn't played any Pro Tour events.
Highest rated player in the world.
Highest rated player in the world. He is, I will stand by this, the farthest pound for pound thrower on the face of the planet. Dude's like $120 and can rip like 400 something feet, maybe 500 feet. I don't know. He throws far for how small he is. Really fun. I mean, it's exciting he's here, but he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's kind of where
the playoff thing has been very confusing.
There's also like, I'm trying to think of the other names, but there are several players that are like, even we were getting down to like AJ Carey, I think's in the event, and he's in like 130 something.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was supposed to be cut to
96.
96,
according to the Pro Tour,
which is that's 40 spots out.
Yeah,
so 40 people didn't show up that could have made it.
Yeah, according to what the Pro Tour told us, like in their release at the beginning of the season, it was supposed to be cut to 96, and then they were going to go to 72 for Maple Hill. We saw like 80 people registered. Is that right?
Something like that.
And like that's okay. Like maybe 16 people at the top couldn't make it in, but then we were seeing other people get in. So there's just like not a lot of clarity on like so how did it work? Was it like, okay, only 73 people actually wanted to play that were in the top 96, so now it's just open season? And like, is it like a work down the list thing like they've done with like the match play and stuff in past years?
I have no idea.
We just don't know. So
in my opinion, the playoffs should be these 96 are invited. Only 60 want to show up.
Sure,
there's
yeah.
60 player field.
Right. Well, I mean, we know how that works. It's like they want a full field for monetary reasons.
But see, that's dumb to me because I've done this math because people have always said the bottom half feeds the purse.
Okay.
That's bullcrap. Bottom half doesn't feed the purse. The bottom half makes the purse bigger.
Yeah.
But if you do the math with added cash, the bottom half feeds themselves. So if you take the bottom half out and you take their money out, you also have to pay less people.
It's true.
And when you do that, the top gets the same amount of money.
But
You don't pay as deep.
right, but the purse isn't as big, and I think that's what the pro.
But that's what we need to be pushing, how much first place takes.
I agree. I completely agree. But
because like I could run an event and get 15,000 people out here to all pay $5 each, and I'd have what $60,000 purse. $75,000 purse, but the winner's going to take home like next to nothing because there's 15,000.
No, I agree with you.
Like, $75,000 purse.
But
hope you like your goldfish for the winnings.
I'm sure that's part of their reasoning. It makes it all the blurry lines. It makes like the playoffs already really don't matter that much at this point. But when you get blurry with like who's in and out, and they're just not communicating it to us as fans, now we don't even know what we're supposed to care about.
No, because like that's what we're gonna pull up.
Because at this point, only the Tour Championship is the one that really we can like look at and like.
Because the Tour Championship is there's a cut and everyone wants to show up to it.
Yeah.
So like that,
it's guaranteed money.
Is what's gonna happen. We're gonna look at going into this event.
Maybe there needs to be a playoff bonus. Just getting to any round to where like they could make sure people are going to show up.
I don't know. Something's got to change. But what we're going to do going into DGLO is, as of right now, the top 72 should be the only people getting into Maple Hill. Obviously, it's disc golf. That's not what's going to happen. There's going to be people that were like, that dude's literally in 150th place. How is he at Maple Hill?
I remember last year was like that. It was weird.
But it is what it is.
Do they still do a qualifier?
They have some qualifying and stuff.
It's confusing.
Here's the thing. I will say this till I'm blue in the face. If it's a playoff event and we want us as media and the fans at home to care, it can't be a playoff event that's not cutthroat.
Yeah, it's like that's the point of the playoffs is like you either make it or you don't, and if you lose, you're out. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, you don't get to March Madness and they get to the Final Four and they're like, okay, well we know Kentucky lost in round 1, but we're gonna bring them back because they had this little qualifying secondary tournament. And now they're back in the Final Four.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any freaking sense. No,
it's weird.
You lose in the round of 64, you're out. Your Liberty in the A-Sun, you lose in the A-Sun championship game. Unless you get an at-large bid, you're out. It's a cutthroat. Like, there's a 68 team or whatever it is field, but 64 is the main one. That's the field. It's not 64
let's
plus
just make it March Madness.
Well, let's just make it logical.
Make it actual playoffs.
It's an 80-person field. Those 80 people are invited. Yeah. It's invite only. You're not top 80. Sorry, go cry in a pillow. You didn't make it.
Well, my thing is, like, if we're dang,
that's just how it should be.
Heart's fired up.
It pisses me off when I'm like, I'm about to talk about the line, but everything I'm about to say is probably not going to be true because I'm gonna be like, well, this person could perform well at DGLO and get in, and it's gonna be like, oh yeah, gonna get in anyways.
To me, like right now, the only thing that really matters that much in playoffs is there's extra points, right? Or is there not even that?
There's extra points. It's the same as Elite Plus.
So in that case, let's just scrap the playoffs thing. If we're not going to do it right, and let's just call them like postseason double points events or something, or just double points events. And like, let's just treat them like what they are, because realistically, the real storyline that you can pick out of it is there are still players jockeying for the Tour Championship, the thing that really matters the most, because it gives you a 1 in 32 shot if you're MPO winning $1 bajillion. If that's what we care about the most, and like those players who are jockeying, the double points is big for them, because that's a big narrative, then let's just focus in on that, because right now that's the only thing that matters.
Well, here's my other secondary question, is we're in the playoffs, but you can earn points at silver events still.
Yeah,
and Worlds.
Yeah.
So like if I go to DGLO and I'm one of these players about to talk about, and I perform bad at DGLO.
Yeah.
But then I pop off at Worlds in a silver event, now I'm in Maple Hill.
It's like it's playoffs, but like the playoffs also can like counts these other two events.
Either do the playoffs or just call this an Elite Plus. Also is dumb, but just call it an Elite Plus event because that's all this frickin' is. Anyways, top 72 is allegedly what's making it to Maple Hill until they open it up to 95 people. And right now the line.
There's probably a press release coming out like as we speak.
I certainly hope.
That's what happened when we were talking about the Northwoods filming. So,
but anyways, we'll start 69th is Andrew Fish, 70th is Joseph Anderson, 71st is Aiden Scott, 72nd is Myro Ryahanen.
There you go.
73rd is Jake Mon. 74th is Luke Taylor. And 75th is Silver Lott.
You remember when Jake Mon was the next big thing at USDGC last year?
Yeah. So these guys, I don't know how many of them are registered for DGLO, how many aren't. Those are the players to watch at DGLO to see. And then that's getting them into MVP. And then from MVP to the Tour Championship, obviously cuts down to 32. The 32 line's the line to actually watch. That's the line to actually watch. So let's get into FPO storyline. Natalie Ryan won this last year, and with the United Series, Natalie Ryan's back this year.
Yeah.
What do you think of Natalie's chances out here this weekend?
I honestly don't know because she hasn't been playing well. The last event was Ledgestone, I guess.
Yes.
And I remember seeing Natalie Ryan pretty far down the
Which that Northwoods
leaderboard.
isn't exactly.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know. You know, FPO is so unpredictable right now. So I would say defending champion odds have to be pretty good. Like, not going to be surprised, but I you know, it's just so hard to predict FPO right now, honestly.
No, I agree. I think Natalie has a solid shot at this course, but it's just going to come down to whose weekend it really is.
I mean, the distance will help for sure.
Now, Haley King also seems to be back on tour from here on out. She returned at Ledgestone, but then skipped Idlewild. But now it appears, registration-wise, is here to stay for the rest of the year, at least the main events. Coming off injury, this does seem like a course that plays well for Haley King. Yeah. But coming off injury, I mean,
it's a lot of throwing. 4 days too. Yeah. 4 days of a lot of throwing. That is that's going to be interesting to track. I've been pretty high on Haley King this season when she's been playing, but a little more weary. Like, you know, coming off an injury, longer course, a lot of walking.
There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, a lot. That's kind of always how it is. Not easy to predict. Like the rest of FPO. You know, our rock, our cornerstone of FPO, Kristen Tatar, is still not here.
She will be back for Worlds.
Which I also think is. I mean, when you're Kristen, you do whatever you want because you win like 90% of the events you play in. I think she's like 9 for 14 this year. But it is pretty, I would say it's a little silly if you're the Pro Tour. And I don't think she was at Portland either. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, you're right.
So that means she's going to miss
every event,
all the Elite Pluses. All the ones that the Pro Tour said, this is the big one. Like, other than the majors, like, these are the ones that we really want to put all the effort into. Like, arguably, you're like a top 5 most popular player on tour, MPO and FPO, isn't showing up. And, well, when you dominate and make as much money as Kristen does on tour, I don't blame her. It's just like, that's tough scene.
Now, an interesting one. So, top 36 FPO are supposed to make it to MVP. Sitting in 37th currently is Valerie Mandujano, but she just won.
Yeah.
That auto bids her to the Tour Championship.
That's true.
I would assume that auto bids her to MVP.
We don't know.
Who knows? But she is playing this weekend, and she's in 37th. She's going to have a good enough weekend that she'll be in the top 30. She'll be in the top 36 anyways. But outside of her, we'll start at 33rd. We have Madison Walker, who's been playing pretty solid as of late. We'll see if she can, keep that pace going. Cynthia Ricciardi is in 34th. Katie Toddy is in 35th. Erica Stinchcomb's 36th. That's the line currently for MVP.
Okay, some names there.
Then Valerie Mandujano's outside right now. Again, that's not going to be true. Silva Saarinen, I don't think she's a European player. I don't think she's going to be over here. Aria Castrita, she's had some decent tournaments. Rachel Turton, she's the British player.
Yeah, legit.
I don't know if she's playing or not. Paige Shue will be playing. She's in 41st right now.
Oh, okay. So there's some interesting stories there.
I think Paige Shue, Valerie Mandujano's in my opinion. Whether via the win or I don't think it's going to matter because 36 is going to be nothing for her to catch, I think.
Well, she's going to get to the one that matters.
Paige Shue will be the interesting one. If she can sneak up. But, I mean, she's going to have a lot of sneaking to get to 19th. That's probably not going to happen. But
far course.
She could make it to MVP.
Hey, world champ love, so.
Kona Panis is injured right now with something with her fingers. She said that she was on Instagram Live. She was showing off. She got, like, these little ice packs that went on her finger. And some type of
like a sprain situation.
I'm not sure. I joined a little bit late, but she's going to like physical therapy and all of this stuff.
Dang.
So she's missing this weekend. She's going to be at Worlds, but she's not sure if she's going to play Worlds or not yet. But she's sitting outside the cut for MVP and the Tour Championship. So
not looking good.
Realistically, Worlds and U.S. Women's are the last 2 chances to see.
Got to win.
Kona Montgomery.
Yeah.
And I guess if she wins Worlds, she would be into the Tour Championship. It's not a Pro Tour event, but it should still get you in.
I don't know.
I don't even think the Pro Tour knows. They'll probably just cross that bridge when they get there. All right, let's get into the bold predictions presented by Third Wave Coffee, and then we'll do a little points update. So Third Wave Coffee is a local to us coffee shop and roastery. They're committed to ethical and sustainable sourcing for all of their coffee, and they have 20 single origin coffees from all over the world in stock right now. Plus, this year they've released the Bogey Bros blend, which a lot of you have been drinking and enjoying. and it's a blast. It's a good time. It's tasted and improved by myself, Trevor, and Connor. It's perfect for all of you looking to dip your toes into the specialty coffee scene. And for our listeners, they're offering 20% off with the code DISCGOLF. So head over to third-wave.coffee and pick something up today. Again, that's code DISCGOLF. Get you 20% off your order and support them for supporting the show. Bold prediction. You probably have heard Bert Kreischer's going to be here.
I'm sure
He's a rather large comedian. And multiple ways, but mainly in the facet that he's very famous right now. So my bold prediction is I think Bert Kreischer's personal security team is going to tackle someone and it's going to make it to mainstream media.
Hey, if that's what it takes to get disc golf to mainstream media, I'll be the guy. Like, just fly me out there. I'll make a play.
Right.
That's honestly, that's pretty spot on. I could see that. I
think disc golfers will get a little too buddy, and Bert's finally just going to be like, hey, man, whoa, get off me. And then next thing you know.
Get out of the Bert zone. Step out of the Bert zone.
Get away from the Bert zone, baby.
How many disc golfers you think are paying like the $200 or whatever to get in the Bert zone?
$200?
I think.
Are you serious? You're pulling that out your butt.
Well, that's the VIP pass that gets you 4 days access to the tournament as well.
Okay, but that's the only way to get into the Bert zone.
When I looked at it when they first announced it, that's all I saw.
Okay, I don't know the answer.
So like, it's not insane. You're paying like they're supposed to be like a tented area that you're getting into. It's not insane depending on how much you care about Bert Kreischer.
Yes,
but that would be the interesting thing. See how many people have that pass.
At least 25.
It's got to be.
You know, this is if you're 25. A big Bert Kreischer fan and you don't watch disc golf, but you're watching the show for some reason, this is probably your best chance for an intimate meet and greet.
Good point. Yeah, true. That'll be interesting. Well, because he posted that on his social. So will there be just Bert fans? Wait a second. Is this our strategy? We just got to find celebrity disc golf players. There's so many of those. And then
at least 3.
Do way cheaper meet and greet situations that you would normally get. And
disc golfers not that many people care that much about Bert. So like, I'm not paying $200 to meet the guy.
No, well, I mean,
but like a diehard Bert fan, $200 is probably like nothing.
That's what I'm saying. So like, maybe we're just gonna have a bunch of people there that like Bert and they're like, oh, the disc golf thing, and then we're gonna grow. # grow the sport. Okay.
# grow the Bert.
My bold prediction is I think hole 18 is gonna play at least a half stroke over par, and I'm not sure about that.
I would agree.
It's just gonna.
I think it's gonna play
I can't decide how many people are gonna throw OB because I think you're gonna have a lot of people who have like 80, 90 feet for a birdie, but how many people are going to throw OB? That's the question.
I think a lot of people will throw OB.
Remains to be seen. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pars on that hole.
There will be. Going into predictions here, point standings coming into this week. I am in the lead at 96 points. Trevor is at 91 points. I gained 1 point on you last week.
Tight. Got 2 majors left.
2 majors left. It's anyone's ball game.
You clutched up with the second and third.
I did.
That was really clutch.
And by golly, I'm about to do it again. MPO top 3. I'm going kind of chalky, but I got a little dark horse sneaking in there for third. Not Brody, sorry. But anyways, I'm going Calvin taking it down. Calvin Heimberg. Ricky Wysocki's going to come in second.
I'll be dead if you...
And I'm taking James Proctor for third place.
Okay. You're really high on the Proctor and the Proctologist.
I like Proctologist. He didn't play this event last year. I feel like it plays very well to his game.
Consistent player.
And I could see this being one he wins, but... I'm feeling Calvin across 4 rounds is definitely going to be in the top 3, and I want to have Ricky across 4 rounds in my top 3 too. So I didn't want to put them.
I've got a kind of an interesting pick as well. Not super crazy. I've got Ricky in third. Okay. I'm taking Kyle Klein in second.
I like him.
Played well at this event last year. Sneaky good this year. We forget. I took a reminder from me this morning. He's a Pro Tour champion this year. He won Waco. Yeah. And he has been good this year. I think he just took 4th at the last event in Ottawa. He's been around. I like him at this course a lot over 4 rounds, so I like him. And then I'm going to take Calvin in first. I think he's certainly due to win. Has a good history at this course. There's no reason he shouldn't do well at this course. So, yeah, I think he's finally going to get over the hump.
Now, what about your FPO?
FPO, very tricky. I've got Holland Hanley in third. I think she's going to do, I think I see a third place finish.
Okay.
Not better than that, but I see third. Owen Scoggins in second. She was able to take second last year at a course that I didn't know that would favor her, but played there well last year, and she's consistent. And then I'm going to take Valerie Manhano winning it. A player that has won back-to-back before on the tour. Kristen Lisfield, good player, proved that she can still win last week. I can see it.
So I got the same top 3 in a different order, though.
Okay.
I'll just go from the bottom to the top.
You're going to take Owen to win, you dirty.
No, I have Owen Scoggins in third place. Okay. I owe you Chick-fil-A. She burned me last week. I'm not letting her burn me again, but I'm not fully removing her from top 3.
Okay.
And then Valerie Mandujano in second, because I think this is the week that Holland Hanley takes it down. I'm taking Holland Hanley to win.
I don't mind at all.
I like her out here. I've doubted her one too many times. Holland, I'm Team Holland
it's
here.
so funny because like a lot of times we'll get to a course and be like, oh, Holland and like Ella, who we put in the same sentence because they have a similar play style, I guess. And then we're like, oh, they're not going to do well this course. And then they will. But now that we've gassed Holland up,
Ella Hansen's going to win.
Yeah, it's a dud. Yeah, Ella Hansen's going to win.
No, Holland Hanley takes it down.
I like Ella Hansen in fourth. See, I just want to put that out there, that juju.
Ella Hansen's going to finish in 7th.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Just kidding, 7th. Dark horse pick. I'm going with Mason Ford. He played okay out here last year.
I'm surprised he's outside the top 30, honestly.
He is.
Double check that?
He definitely is, but I will double check it.
I think he's probably just outside.
I looked at it.
But he's just a consistent player.
Yeah, I like him.
I've got, I'm taking the dark horse himself, Brody Smith. He took ninth at this event last year. You have to like Brody at this event. There's enough open space, and he throws pretty far. I feel like if Brody has a chance, I like Brody okay at USDGC to like maybe do something one of these years. But if they're as far as the rest of the events on the schedule, I like him here the most.
Here in Vegas, I feel like
on the schedule to the end of the year.
To the end of the year.
Yeah, I like him here the most. So, and he needs it. He's got desperation now. He's outside the cut, just barely.
Outside the cut. Mason Ford's in 34th.
Okay, there you go.
Rankings.
It's a fringe guy.
Well, there you have it. DGLO starts tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. 4-day event coming at you, so be sure to tune in on DGN, Jomez, your favorite way to watch some good old-fashioned disc golf, and then we'll wrap it all up for you on Monday back on Grid Block. See you then.